Hey everyone, we are here to talk about the March release of the Okapi web app. This release entails a lot of enhancements to existing features, as well as a few new features to make everyday life a little bit easier. Our first feature enhancement comes in the form of questions. When we view any sort of question within the application, whether it be from a question list or when we're adding a question to a recap template, we have added the ability to see the response options for select single answer, select multiple answer, and single column matrix question types. What that means is anytime I come across a select single answer question, I will now see a response options link that I can hover over, and it will show me the options available for that question. In this case, the activity location question will allow the user to pick from premium, excellent, good, fair, or poor. That holds true for any question as I come across them. I can see that these other questions offer the same functionality and update the question options based on what exists for that particular question. If I were to look at a recap template, the same thing would play out if I were to add a particular activity location question. As I'm looking at my recap template, I can see the response options available and still drag and drop and get that functionality. Go ahead and cancel out all that. Another new question type we have enhanced is the text input. Previously, we only allowed for a single line of text to be entered. We have extended that to allow for a multi-line configuration. And what that allows for us to do is allow the user to input multiple lines of text. If we are looking for a large response on a recap template from a field rep, we can now accommodate that and get that into the hands of the user. So I'll go ahead and we'll see this recap template here. We have a couple text questions already set up in the form of activity summary and competing brands in attendance. If I were to click on this edit icon right here, it slides out the question settings. Within the settings, I have the option to select or deselect the multiple line option. I'm going to go ahead and save that out. So we now know that the competing brands in attendance question is not multi-line, whereas the activity summary question should be multi-line. So we'll go ahead and put this into action. I'll go ahead and save this. We'll go ahead and create a new activity just to get up that new question type that we've entered. Go ahead and fill in some dummy values. Say it starts at 1, goes through 4. We'll attach this to our March event. Alright, so we're back with our activity. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the recap now to look at that multi-line text question we configured. So as you can see here, a multi-line text question shows up as a text area input. This allows for us to type in multiple lines and retain all of our values, in opposed to the text question type, which only allows for a single line of text to be entered. When I hit enter on my keyboard or I try and enter a new space or do anything fancy, it doesn't allow me to do so. I'm going to go ahead and fill out this guy here. And I'm going to save out my recap template. And I will move this to the approved state so that we can see what it looks like once it's completed. So now we've completed our recap and everything has been shifted into the actual saved form. We can see that the multi-line text input kept my spaces in my text. So it saved it exactly as I entered it. And we can see that the text input does what it's supposed to do and only retains a single line of text. Another enhancement comes when viewing an event itself. We have included a new events total roll-up feature. And what this does is for any particular event, we go through and look at all of the activities that exist inside of this event. We grab any numeric value that exists on a recap template and we bubble that up into the event totals. So for this Tiger Stadium Appaloosa 2018 event, we received a total of 3,400 total consumers sampled from all of the activity recaps that exist below this event. That would be a roll-up of these 3 different activities. This also extends into the print view of an event. If I were to pull up the print view, we will see the event totals also displays here. There we are. We will move on to a completely new feature available within survey templates and unique to our Okapi 360 and above subscribers. Anytime a survey template has the web-based surveys enabled, we now generate a QR code automatically. There's no additional configuration that needs to occur. Still the same requirements of when viewing a web survey URL. You get to the activity overview page. You can still see your web survey URL. Now we have this fancy QR code. What a QR code does is allow for mass sharing of this URL with ease. A person simply has to hold up their cell phone, open up their camera. The camera will recognize the QR code and allow them to actually pull up the URL without having to type anything in. Extremely useful in sort of a presentation scenario or where you're in a large gathering, rather than having to send an email out to everybody or asking them to type in this URL. Just hold up their phone and wow. We do allow you to expand this into a slightly larger image. It does throw a black background behind the QR code. This allows for the camera on the mobile device to recognize the QR code quicker. You can also download the QR code to your machine. That saves the QR code to an image file that you can then share in an email or display larger on your screen. Whatever use you have for that, it's now available. The last major feature of the March release is something we're calling the campaign ROI, or the Okapi ROI. Shane Freeman made a great video around this topic. He went into great detail on how to configure it and what all the moving pieces are behind that. I'll take a moment to explain kind of the data hierarchy side of it and what a campaign really does and allow us to bring all this data to life and see what exists on the bottom. If we were to take a campaign and lay it out into more of a graph form, this really represents the data flow and the purpose of a campaign. Our real goal is to bring all of these survey responses we gather from consumers and all of the recaps that we gain from our field reps, feed them up through a single survey template, which is configured in a certain manner to meet all of our ROI needs, a recap template that is also configured in a manner to meet all of our ROI needs. This enables us to make sure that we generate the same data for every survey response and every recap. This feeds up through a set of activities, which are all bucketed into a single event, which feed into a campaign. When we're looking at a single event, this seems to be pretty simple, not very in detail. If we were to switch this out and look at it in the sense of multiple events inside of a campaign, as time passes and multiple events occur, now it all starts to take shape. As more survey responses come in, more recaps are submitted, they all feed through the same survey template and recap template. We then bucket them into their activity and their event and up into the campaign. If you really want to think about this in a pretty straightforward fashion, what we're doing is gathering all of this data, feeding it up through an activity which attaches certain data parameters to all of those responses. An activity has a start date and an end date that we can use to determine ROI by month. An activity has hours associated with it that are worked. We can then begin to group up all of the activity hours. An event, it allows us to bucket those activities. And then a campaign buckets the event. So we've created this really big umbrella of all of our data to where we can reach the lowest common denominator and funnel it up through a path that we can then determine things in a fashion that makes more sense. Now this all comes to life within a campaign overview page. I'll take a look at the 2018 Stadium Series Tour. This was a year-long event. It hosted 12 events with 36 activities. And as we see here, all of that data gets rolled up into a great report that we can then make sense around, was that particular event, that activity, and ultimately, did this campaign have any positive effect on what we're trying to do? In this case, we started off rocky, and we picked up a lot of steam. By the end of the campaign, we were rolling pretty good. Based on all of those factors that come into play, we can safely estimate that there was about 191% return on the investment that we put into this campaign. We had a bunch of other cool features, allow you to quickly gather the data you need and understand where this campaign was and what this campaign did. When we get to the actual ROI details, it becomes even more interesting where we begin to look at those survey responses and those recap templates that have been submitted along the way, they get dumped into a very large bucket where all the data becomes aggregated. I can then see my total activity hours, total consumers sampled, estimated new customers. All of these pieces now come to life, and I've taken data that was very siloed into a single activity, even in some cases down to a single survey response and recap template. That becomes extremely powerful when looked at over the course of a full year. All that said, the March release is out the door. Any of these new features are available for you to use. If they fit into your package, you're well on your way. If not, we're always available. Reach out to our sales team and they can get you fixed up with some of the new features. Other than that, have a great day.